It is 7:01, and I will call the meeting of the Urbana Historic Preservation Commission to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
Here, present.
Ms. Novak.
Here.
Ms. Pagliuzzo.
Here.
Ms. Pollock.
Here.
Mr. Seiler.
Here.
Mr. Shepard.
Here.
And Ms. Smith, I believe, is excused. Okay.
Hey, we have a quorum. Thank you. And happy Preservation Month, everyone. May is
Yay.
Preservation Month. We'll talk about it later, but bravo. Yay. We have no changes in the agenda, so the next item is approval of the minutes of our previous meeting, which was March 4th, 2020, was a regular meeting of the commission. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to those minutes?
No.
No?
I'm sorry, I saw just one typo.
Can you identify the typo by page, please?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now.
Okay. Dave, did you have a typo?
I'm sorry?
Did you have a typo or?
No, I did not.
Okay.
All right, let's see if I can find it. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong version of the minutes. I apologize.
Okay.
On page 6, the 5th paragraph that starts with Ms. Smith stated. The next to the last line says the house way on its way. I think it should be the house was on its way.
Okay. Does anyone else have any additions or corrections to the minutes? If so, could we have a motion to pass the minutes as corrected, please?
So moved.
Second.
And I'll second.
Each. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved as corrected. Thank you. Written communications. Marcus?
Oh, your mic is off.
Mine?
No, Marcus's.
Oh.
We received 2 emails today, and in favor or in support of the proposed certificate of economic hardship. These were forwarded on to the members of the Historic Preservation Commission. One was from Janet Moore, who is going to be purchasing number 4 Buena Vista Court. I'll just give the last sentence of the last paragraph. My point is this: if the Historic Preservation Commission has a long-term mission, the preservation of this district to be occupied by homeowners who will, in good faith, buy these homes, care for them, be safe within them, and have a reasonable expectation of selling them, then owners need to be able to invest wisely by putting their money into features of the home that potential future buyers will insist on, one being functional windows. I feel that reinstalling non-functional windows imposes an extreme financial hardship on Mr. Fell, as he will probably be spending a great deal of money creating a property which will be very unlikely to be resaleable in the future. Please consider the pool of potential future buyers and what they will demand in order for these homes to continue to be reasonable investments for purchasers. The second email received was from Amy Podlasek, and this was also in support of the certificate of economic hardship. She states that 2 Buena Vista Court was in terrible disrepair, so I was happy when Andrew Fell purchased it with the intention of restoring it. In a perfect world, the windows would be replaced with custom wood reproduction windows, but economically that places an undue financial burden on the homeowner. Keep in mind the house was unlivable and unsafe. Replacement windows more in keeping with current standards of health and safety can be used in a way to maintain the original aesthetic standards of the property. I am delighted that Andrew Fell is working on the property and restoring it to a livable and safe standard and support his window choice. And that was the end of the communications.
Okay. Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions about the communications? Okay. Next on the agenda is audience participation. And if anyone, we do have someone who wishes to speak? Is that Jason? Anybody know?
I do not see any hands raised at this time. We do have a couple members of the public on. They can unmute their microphone if they wish to speak by unmuting it in the lower left-hand corner. It looks like Maggie Wachter has unmuted her microphone. Maggie, do you wish to address?
One thing that I need to say, though, if this is related to the property at Buena Vista Court, please wait until we have a chance to reopen the public hearing and speak during that time so that your testimony is part of that hearing, please.
And I see that Maggie has muted her microphone, so that
Thank
must
you,
be
Maggie.
the case.
Appreciate it. All right, so next item is continued public hearings, and I hereby reopen or continue, I guess, the hearing HP-2020-EH-01, a request by Andrew Fell for a certificate of economic hardship at number 2 Buena Vista Court to replace original windows with new windows rather than to restore the originals due to the additional expense and time required for restoration. So we've kind of already gone through the hearing. Oh, Marcus, do you have a staff report you want to mention? Yes.
Sure, I can try and make it brief, though.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see, making it brief. Mr. Fell has since obtained 4 additional estimates for window restoration and 1 additional estimate for window replacement. The difference between the lowest estimates to restore or to replace the windows is $19,070.02 plus an additional $1,500 due to the extra time it would take to restore the windows. Based on an analysis of the certificate of exemption criteria against the additional estimates and expert testimony, staff recommends that the commission approve a certificate of economic hardship in this case.
Wow, good abbreviating. All right, so we've been through the format of letting everyone speak last time around, but we'll kind of go through a shorter version of that for this time around. So members of the audience, including Maggie, if you wish to speak about the Buena Vista Court economic hardship for bungalow number 2, you can do so at this time, please.
Yeah, hi. I would just like to say that if you do allow Mr. Fell to upgrade the windows, I think it would be encouraging to all of us who live at Buena Vista Court to try to keep our houses in good condition. The fact that he's already made lots of improvements to the house has encouraged all of us. And I feel that there's a new spirit of home ownership in the community, in that we're all becoming more interested in maintaining our houses. So I think it would add a lot of support to this interest in keeping our houses in good repair.
Okay, thank you, Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have someone else who wishes to speak about this case?
This is Bill Rose.
Oh, yes. Is there another? Hi, Bill. It's Alice.
Hi, Alice.
Is there, Jason, is there someone else that's not an expert witness that is in the audience to speak?
There is a Marley in the meeting, but since she hasn't unmuted her microphone, I don't think she wants to speak. Marley, I've unmuted you. Were you wanting to speak, or you're just here to watch and listen?
I'm wondering whether you're picking up my granddaughter's Zoom connections. My name is Janet Moore, and Marley's my granddaughter. It's an unusual name, so I'm just wondering if we have a mix-up. I will speak if you'd like me to, though.
If you want to speak, that's fine. You don't have to.
No, I'd be happy to. I agree very much with Maggie. I am new to the community, and I have felt very welcome there by all of the people who have shared their experiences and their encouragement. I was amazed when I went into the house where Andrew is working, because he has done so much improvement already. I hate to see him wait much, much longer to do the other repairs that he wants to do. I was understanding that the historical development, or the historic determination for this area, was made so to protect these homes so that they wouldn't get bought up and otherwise made over into multifamily and student apartments and the things that are going on in Champaign-Urbana everywhere right now, and taking down a lot of the beautiful old houses and areas. So I think the fact that the house went to such an extreme level of deterioration and really got bought up by someone who probably would have just torn it down really was scary. I think that was a really wonderful thing that Mr. Fell came along and rescued that house, and I would like to see him proceed with the improvements he's making. I understand I also have quite a few improvements, and I'm inspired by the things people have done over there already. It's a lovely community, and I would just like to see us all be able to continue our efforts to make it even better.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Jason, oh, you got the correction. Thank you. Sorry, Andrew Fell. I should have called on you first out of the group here. Would you like to speak? Are we all muted?
I was, now I'm unmuted now. I'd be glad to speak. I mean, I'm mostly what I would talk about is reiterating what is in the submission I made. So I'm not sure that's valuable time for everyone. I'm assuming it was, everyone read it and saw what was in it. So I'd be glad to answer questions when we get to that point. I don't necessarily feel like I need to add a whole bunch more information.
Commissioners, does anyone have questions for Mr. Fell? I'll take that as no right now.
I actually do, Alice.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's truly a question for Mr. Fell, and this is Gina speaking, or if it's for the entire commission. Mr. Fell, first I want to thank you for taking on the project. I know it's kind of a labor of love with these old homes, so I do want to thank you for taking on the project. My question, I guess, is, as I mentioned, maybe to all the commissioners, were we all under the assumption that we were asking for both the interior windows and the storm windows and the screens to be kept original? And Mr. Fell, is that what you thought the commission was asking of you?
Well, in general, I have to say yes to a degree. There are no screens. There never were any screens. So I can't fix any screens that weren't there. And the way these windows were constructed on site, especially, and again, it's a little hard to visualize, as in-swing casements with storm windows that kind of clip on the outside and come down, there was really, I mean, the alternative are the ugly aluminum storefront, storm windows that are on there. And obviously I can't keep those. So my only alternative really is to restore the storm windows that were original to the house. There's no other, any other storm window would have to be custom made to fit on there. So
could I ask a follow-up question? Why can't you use the storms that are currently on the house?
Oh, I can. That's part of this whole proposal is they were, the
aluminum storms. Yes.
Well, because the windows are in-swing casement windows, and the storm screen units are double hung storm screen units. So it's like having a jail bars on the window. It does no good for any purpose. I guess opening the window and having a screen is okay, but I certainly feel as an owner and as an architect and someone who cares about what it looks like, I can't believe that the HPC wants me to leave aluminum storm screen units on the outside of the house. So,
And I'm not saying that anybody is asking you to do that. I just didn't realize that the quote entailed both making screens and refurbing the exterior storms.
right. And
That's all.
I mean, I can plead ignorance, or I just made the assumption if I have to fix the windows and I have to have storm windows, I have to fix the ones I have because they go on the outside of, I mean, that's what you see on the outside of the house. So that, whether I had to or not, that's what all these quotes include.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess, Gina, I didn't think that it included the storm windows. Was my take out of the last meeting, but it's neither here nor there at this point. Did you have more questions, Gina?
No, I think I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. And Bill Rose, who is muted, does Bill want to say anything? Let's see if he can. Oh, there he is.
Hi.
Bill, did you have any comments that you wanted to make?
No, I filed a short report. I don't know if the commission has had a chance to see that.
We do have it, yes.
Okay, and I have no comments in addition to that.
All right. Can I ask you a question since we have the
Sure.
expert here?
Can I have a question? Can I get a copy of the report? How do I get that?
Someone from the city can send that to you.
Okay.
Andrew, it's Exhibit C in the staff report
Okay.
that I emailed on Friday.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
Bill Rose.
Yes.
I read something, now I'm not sure if it was in your report or the city's comments about it was in your report that the energy savings was much more substantial with the replacement windows than it would be with the rehabbed windows at the higher cost. And I guess I was just curious about that in general, because it seems like with the National Trust for Historic Preservation's Green Lab and other places, that research has shown that a properly rehabbed historic window with a properly fitted storm window has possibly a greater R value than what replacement windows would have. So could you just comment on that issue, please?
The R value of basically the R value of a double pane window, whether that's in a new window, will be slightly greater than two panes, one single pane sash and single pane storm, slightly greater. The difference has to do with airtightness of the unit. And in that case, it's very hard to, new windows are built to a standard for airtightness. They're measured for airtightness. And generally, if a window is to be, if a new window is to be made, a window unit, a replacement window unit is to be made, it's going to be tough in the hands of a craftsman to come close to the airtightness that you can achieve with a new window. And it's in that regard, airtightness, that there is an energy advantage to replacement over, to new windows over replacement windows.
But what about longevity issues? Does that come into play at all?
Just one moment. Longevity really comes down to maintenance, and new windows are made to have lower maintenance requirements than than a wood window that has to be primed and painted and then painted regularly. I'm sorry for the interruption, and I forgot your question in the meantime.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just, there seems to be some conflicting information just out there, I guess, between historic windows and replacement windows. I have 87-year-old windows on my house right now.
Me too.
They, they actually do better than the 3 replacement windows that are in the house that I did not put in the house. But anyway, thank you.
There's one other piece of information I could give, and that is that I'm very familiar with the low-income weatherization program. It's run by the U.S. Department of Energy and applied in the state of Illinois. And one of our very strong findings has been that since we're working in low income, we generally have $5,600 to spend to upgrade a home, and window replacements are off the table. In other words, we are unable to get we're unable to get a payback from new windows. So it's not as though I'm raising the flag for new windows. There is an energy argument to be made if the windows themselves are very leaky, and that was what was on the table. But it certainly wasn't. Energy wasn't the driver here. And although I assign it a considerable amount of importance, a growing amount of importance over time, still I think the preservation issues that your commission is dealing with should prevail.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Rose?
I do. I'd like to ask Bill something. I've been trying to look through all these notes, and I can't really find it, but I remember reading this morning and then before too, something about the distance between say if we're looking at the existing or the old windows and the storm, something about the distance between the two, 7.5 inches or 4 inches, and that having some effect on, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I think so.
Can you explain that concept to me?
What I was referring to in my report was predicated on a drawing that I think Mr. Fell might have provided. It was a pencil drawing of a window jamb plan, a detail. And it showed, by my understanding, that the original storm windows sat very much outboard of the wall assembly, and that the interior sash sat very much inboard, so far inboard that they could, the way it looked like on the drawing, swing to open entirely and back against the wall, and so that curtains could be pulled. And that, of course, that distance between an outside window and an inside window could not be replicated with a single unit. And I didn't know or didn't have a recommendation for where within the thickness of the wall assembly new windows would go. But in the later discussion that I had with Marcus, I'm not sure how representative the drawing was that I was basing my estimate on. But I was using that to ask the question, how would the window look from the outside? And how would the window look from the inside? How similar would it be, given that the outside the critical detail would be the mullion details of the original sash, which are kind of unique and I guess a signature of the development. Those would be seen at night from the interior, pretty much the same, whether it's a replacement or a refurbished window. And from the outside, if screens are original, and screens would be necessary, storms, you would basically see the glazing of the storm and have to look hard during the daytime for the signature mullion detail to appear. It would appear more closely at night, but there's probably not a lot of traffic at night. I was trying to make the case that visually the appearance of a replacement window would probably be in keeping with what people have been seeing historically or at the origin of the development.
Trent, did you have any other questions?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Thank you, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have any questions of Bill Rose? No. Mr. Fell, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, but still happy to answer questions if anybody has any questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. I think everyone who is available has had the opportunity to comment if they so wanted. If I'm missing someone, please unmute yourselves and let me know. Otherwise, commission should enter into discussion about the windows.
Alice, I see that Maggie has her hand up.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would just like to say that I have the original windows. And besides the insulation questions, there's also a humidity or moisture question. And I have been, in the 5 years that I've lived here, I have been fighting moisture that gets in around those storms. And in one case, I actually had mold on the wall from the rain. So I just wanted to add that moisture is also an issue with the older windows.
Great. Thank you, Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
Any other unmuting things that I didn't see? Thank you. All right, commissioners, discussion. David,
Well, I'll say something.
yeah, we haven't heard from David yet either.
Okay.
David, me, or David Hayes, or David Seiler?
David Hayes.
Oh, yeah, me. Okay. I'm just glad to see, I mean, we've been wondering what are, like in terms of costs and other estimates and stuff, and being able to compare things. It was useful to get that information. And I appreciated Mr. Rose's expert testimony. And so having read through the information this afternoon and gone back and considered some of the factors, to me, it seems reasonable. I mean, I wish that the original windows could be maintained within this project very much. But my sense is that $20,000 is a significant difference. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay. Trent?
First, thank you, Andrew, for your labor of love on that little house. So thanks for doing that. I wasn't at the last meeting. I read through the minutes and I've looked through the estimates for the various window options, and I would agree with David that the difference between in cost between the rehab and new, to me, is significant. And I've fixed up old houses and lost a lot of money on one because I think made it too nice. But I think it's a significant amount, 20,000 plus, I would say, difference. And what Bill had to say about the way, well, just the thought of these old or new or whatever storm windows that essentially don't match up very well with the look of the old windows fixed up. It just doesn't seem like a good match. In my mind, I can see the place appearing to look more like it might have a long time ago if the windows were replaced, and the whole the exit window situation with having to replace some windows for code purposes just seems like it's kind of doesn't make much sense to have a mixture of old windows and new windows that may or may not look very similar to each other. I just, to me, it seems logical to grant the certificate of hardship. So that's
Okay.
kind of my thought process on it.
All right. Do any other commissioners wish to speak? David Seiler, we haven't heard from you.
Yeah, I think one thing I was having problems with is not having the same window throughout the house, and especially when you have a group of three and one of them has to open out and the other two remain to open in. I was having trouble seeing how that was going to look good from outside. So I think that's a factor in addition to the financial burden of trying to restore what's there. So I think I would also be inclined to go along with staff's recommendation.
All right. Anybody else from the commission wanting to speak?
I would like to just say something. You know, I'm be on this commission, so this is the first case that I've really had to think about, and you know, I can see myself split right down the middle. You know, in terms of my understanding of what our job is, and also the practical realities of having had somebody invest in a place that, you know, sounds like it was literally falling into the ground, and having gotten to a point where the improvement is going to be so significant that it makes me feel more inclined to cut Mr. Fell some slack on this and say, you know, thanks for improving the property. Although there's a little part of me, I just had my house sided. My house was built in 1893. And I struggled with, they wanted to cover the windows, and I made them leave the windows because to preserve the character of the house, which is not in any historic district at all. But, you know, you do want to preserve the history, but you don't want to get to the point where you're doing things that are kind of crazy. And with the amount of money that he's put into this already and the great improvement that it will be to the whole of Buena Vista Court, which I love. This is a wonderful part of Urbana. I am also, after reading everything, I'm inclined to say that this should be something that's granted to Mr. Fell so he can proceed and get this done.
Okay, thank you. So if anyone cares to start thinking about forming a motion, let me ask Marcus, can we just, Marcus.
Alice, could I just throw one more thing in? Is that okay?
Of course.
Because Trent had mentioned looking for the drawing that shows the spacing between the windows, and that was Exhibit C in the last application that we considered the last time. So it's page 24.
Okay.
Okay.
And I am sensitive. It was mentioned about the possibility about a moisture issue there. I mean, that could in and of itself then challenge the energy efficiency of the scenario as drawn at the bottom of that page, where the spacing goes from between 3.5 inches to about 7.5 inches. And I think that that's very legitimate. So I want to recognize the concern of the resident who said, I have a moisture problem with the old windows. And I think, oh, I see that Mr. Rose, you're back there. I think, when you were talking about air tightness and moisture issues, there is a distance where the benefits of having a double pane situation just fall away because other factors intervene. So I do wish that this problem wouldn't be there if there wasn't insulation added to the inside of the house, which of course you're not going to not do that. So it does seem like there's a kind of chain reaction. The need to insulate the house according to a new standard creates a depth problem, creates then an inefficiency. And I just want to acknowledge that in my thinking about cost and anticipating problems, that's part of how I'm thinking. So,
could I address that?
Yes, Bill.
New windows are constructed to standards by NFRC, National Fenestration Rating Council, and one of the things that they address is condensation resistance. They are all rated for a condensation resistance, and homeowners love that because anyone with storm windows is familiar with dealing with in wintertime condensation frosting on a storm window, which is of no significance in terms of the longevity or performance of the house or even of mold, but can be something the homeowner doesn't want. Condensation on the interior of a window where it drips down onto the sill, that can be a lot more troublesome. That problem does go away with a condensation resistance rated NFRC standard window. Air tightness does enters in very much to the humidity equation in the summertime. A leaky house, well, imagine in your car, if you're running the air conditioner, is it better with the windows closed or the windows open?
Depends on whether you have a dog.
Okay, there's always a comeback on that one. But basically, air tightness is a real humidity benefit in the summertime comfort. And in the wintertime, it can affect comfort as well as energy efficiency. And in fact, the air tightness, if we put as much effort into air tightness of our buildings, air tightness is the new unexplored area for saving energy. After you've insulated, there's nowhere else to go but in that direction, and it's hard to get there with. It's easier to get there with a replacement window.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion?
Alice, I've got a bunch of comments, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Okay, so as I mentioned the first time I commented, I just want to thank Mr. Fell for taking on this project. Secondarily, I wanted to address both of the people that sent in emails asking for the HPC to consider this economic hardship proposal. Janet, who I believe is still on the call, I just wanted to let you know that, one of the things that you stated in your email was that you thought that functional windows would be a really good thing to have. And no one on the HPC was suggesting that any reinstallation of non-functional windows should happen. We were hoping that we could save the original windows and return them to functionality. So I just wanted to make that point. And then I don't know if Amy might be watching. No one was asking for custom wood reproduction windows to be made for this house. We were asking, to find out if we could restore the original windows that were in the house before they were removed. So I just wanted to address those two things really briefly. But thank you for your comments. I guess one of the things that I wanted to impart both to the commissioners and to anyone that might be watching is that if we look at the lowest cost estimate for the restoration of the interior windows, it was almost identical to the cost of the new windows, within a couple of $100s. And I know that the energy efficiency might be different because we're not talking about storm windows, but just the raw cost of refurbishing those windows was the same, within a few $100s, as purchasing new windows. So I wanted to make that point. Again, Mr. Fell, I wanted to thank you for going out and getting all the additional quotes, because that really made it really easy for folks to see the new costs. I think that because the house requires insulation and the new 2x4 walls, and building that out, that puts in a whole new set of costs that may not be incurred should someone just be looking to restore their old windows. So I wanted to make sure that that was clear to anybody that might be, tuning in and considering whether they should do replacement windows or refurbish the windows that they currently have. There's a lot of additional cost going into this because the jambs need to be reframed, the 2x4 walls are being built. So there's like an additional $8,000 in costs because of the building out of the walls, above and beyond the refurbishing of those windows. So again, I just wanted to make that clear too. I do agree with the other commissioners that I believe that the additional cost here is significant. I would love to see those old windows stay in that house too. And I hope that if they can't stay in the house and we agree to this certificate, the economic hardship, that the windows end up somewhere where they may get reused. I want to thank everyone for your comments, all the time that's been put into this. I guess that's pretty much it for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. I was looking for the staff recommendation. Bear with me a minute here.
Alice, do you think that the motion ought to contain any reference to the 5A through E factors and standards for decision, or does it need to have that?
Well, I was thinking we could do that, but it makes for a really lengthy motion as well too. We could also just refer to reasons of energy savings, cost differential between restored windows and new windows, the length of the construction phase on the property.
Okay.
And maybe including in there, following up on Gina's really important point that there's the layer of the storm windows. Factoring that in. I think that that's a really important point to make, Gina, that you've said that because of that additional scenario, it's significantly more expensive, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? So it's not always going to be that way. So it's worthwhile to maybe note that even in our state.
I agree with you completely that I would like to see some wording. I don't want how we vote on this to be misconstrued to be replacement windows are okay kind of thing, because they're not.
It's always cheaper, right? The idea is that it's always significantly different, but it isn't. It's
and that they're hugely more energy savings and all of those sorts of misnomers that are in there. So however we frame this motion, I would like to have it clear that normally we would fully support the restoration of historic windows, but in certain circumstances, and then list those factors. Yes.
So maybe could it begin by saying, understanding that the cost for restoring the windows was very close to that for replacing the windows, but also understanding that there are additional factors here, and specifying, those such as X and Y.
Mhm.
We therefore, agree with the recommendation, or we therefore, proceed accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I think those other factors then would be, I think there are 4 that are things that have come up tonight. And that is the cost comparisons. And maybe we don't need to repeat that from what you said, but energy improvements, time frame of construction that would have been lengthened by having the restored windows. And then the aesthetic that a number of people have mentioned, that there would be a mixture of windows, some historic and some new, some egress, and that's not a good look. Bill Rose noted that in his report as well, too. So
Marcus has his hand raised.
yes, Marcus. He loves our motions, I know.
Well, I wanted to address Gina's comment about the closeness of the quotes. So if I could share my screen real quickly and go back to the this comparison, okay? Now, yes, the replacement cost for the windows and installation for the least expensive estimate was, say, $8,600. Refurbishing the 10 sashes was $6,400. Having 3 replacement windows is $1,600, so that's $8,000. Now, if we skip the storms and the screens, but then we are all of a sudden talking about no longer apples and oranges, because you're going from a window with a storm compared to a double pane window to a single window with no storm compared to a double pane, thermal window. Now, it's possible that there are the existing 1990s or 2000s store-bought storm windows that could be used with the restored windows. I'm not sure if those are all still available. Andrew would have to speak to that. But even if we didn't include those costs, so we've got $6,400, we've got the $1,600, so $8,000 for just the windows. But then we also have the reframing of the jams for $2,700. That's to accommodate the building out of the walls to add in the insulation. And unless the HPC is going to say, we expect the applicant to not insulate the house, that $2,700 cannot be ignored. And then we have the $5,300 to install the windows. So 64.
It's about $8,000, Marcus.
Pardon?
It's about $8,000 just in those 2 items.
Well, $8,000 just for the windows, and then another $8,000 for installation, so $16,000. And then we've got the $850 that we'll ignore for installing the storms. But then we also have the $4,600 in installation material to install the restored windows, and another $2,000 in hardware. So that's where we've got. So if you simply want to make it easy and say we're going to ignore the $1,200, $1,700, and the $900, so say $3,000 for the storms and screens, you're still looking at $26,000. Jimmy.
But Marcus, I think what we're saying is we're not actually ignoring that. What we're saying is that in this case, the reason why we would be voting in favor of this is because of the contingency, like the need to insulate this when it wasn't before, this is an unusual circumstance. But
Okay.
I think Gina's point was that, for example, if you had a house and you have storm windows existing, and the question is, do I restore the windows? I'm leaving my storms, so it's not saying have no
Right.
storms. But if it's a matter between restoring these windows or taking off the storms and taking out these windows and putting in new windows, there the cost is very comparable. And that's what I think, like Alice and Gina and others are saying, we really want to make sure that this statement acknowledges exactly what you've just pointed out, that this is exceptionally more expensive because of the contingencies that have to do with restoring this situation. Right.
Okay, I understand.
So it's not a blanket statement, but
it was not coming out clearly. And I guess I would still say, again, even without the reframing of the jams, there's still $4,600 in installation material and $2,000 in hardware. That's another $6,000. So you're still looking at, even without building out the walls and insulating, you're still looking at double the cost. So I think in this case, even if you're not building out the walls, the installation is still at least double the replacement job. That I just
Maybe in this case, Marcus, but
Right.
I know that, like, and we've used my house as an example a couple of
Yes.
times, right, where I have double hung windows, where in my case, it made a lot of sense for me to restore my 113-year-old windows, because that was more cost effective in the long run than it would have been to rip them all out and start from scratch with replacement windows. So I just wanted to make the point that in some cases,
Yes.
it can be economically feasible to restore windows instead of replacing windows. That was my only point in bringing up
Okay.
that the cost to restore the windows was almost identical to the cost of the replacement windows, not with installation or any of that,
Okay.
just the raw cost.
Understood. That I completely agree with that. And I agree
Thanks.
that in some cases, the actual restoration versus the replacement components could be very similar. Thank you for
Thank you.
Marcus, while you're there,
Yes.
how detailed do you want this motion?
Well, I guess it depends on how detailed you want to make it.
More than just saying that we support the staff report and the motion.
I think for the matter of the clarity of the motion for the applicant, keeping it as bare bones regarding the request would be preferable. I think that our minutes and the discussion will capture those ideas
Yeah.
that the commission itself had, and keeping them out of the motion would make it clearer in the future for when we have to actually implement the applicant's motion.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on the motion then?
I will move that we approve the certificate of economic hardship based on what we've discussed this evening, and the staff report and staff recommendation. Period.
Marcus, are we okay with that? Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Trent and seconded by Renee. Is there any additional discussion to anything related to the motion?
I would like to, I know we want to keep this simple, but I think it might make sense to maybe talk about C and E being the reasons that we are finding this way, which is the cost of the proposed construction, alteration, relocation, or demolition, and an estimate of any additional costs that would be incurred to comply with the recommendation, and that the economic feasibility of the rehab or reuse of the existing structure. So those two findings, I think, is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're going to, could
And
we
Go ahead.
add B? Decrease in financial return, is that applicable too?
I don't like that one. I mean, I just,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm not stuck on it.
I agree. I agree with Alice. I don't think we know what, if there would be a decrease in value if the windows weren't replaced.
Well, it's a decrease in financial return. If you have to spend $20,000 more, that increases your cost basis on the place, which is going to reduce your return, I'd say. But I don't need to have that in there either.
Trent, do you want to amend your?
Well, I think we're already going to amend it to add in the those two that Gina proposed.
C and D.
Yeah, and I'm fine. I'd accept a friendly amendment to add the two that Gina just proposed.
Okay, Renee, are you okay with the friendly?
I concur.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah, the second, yeah.
All right, so then to clarify, Gina, we're keeping the wording from Trent's motion, but we're adding in particular factors C and D from the staff report?
C and E.
C and E, okay, sorry.
Right, because D is the structural soundness, which I don't think the windows have anything to do with that.
Yeah, okay. All right, and then E. All right, any other discussion? Marcus, you okay on the motion?
So I have something along the lines of, based on discussion and the staff report and staff recommendation and focusing on findings C and E, the commission approved the certificate of economic hardship as requested.
Yep. All right, this calls for a not roll call vote. What do we call it?
Vote.
It is a roll call vote, actually, I think.
Okay. All right.
All right, so Marcus, is that you to do that?
I got you.
Evan, okay.
All right, let's start. Okay. Ms. Pollock.
Yes.
Mr. Seiler.
Yes.
Mr. Shepard.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Ms. Novak.
Abstain?
And Ms. Pagliuzzo.
Yes.
All right, so the certificate of economic hardship is approved. And I hereby close public hearing HP-2020-EH-01. Thank you, everyone, for your input and entirely reasonable discussion as far as I'm concerned. So next item on the agenda is new business, and I don't think we have any. Do we? No. Old business, we don't have any. New public hearings, we don't have any. Monitoring of historic properties. I still owe a letter, guilty.
On which?
On, was it Mumford House and
The
And
dairy house.
oh, the Dairy House. I was thinking Dairy House, but yeah, so both of those really.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I had stopped out at Pierre Moulin's house and found that they actually put in two smaller signs for the larger signs, and he still needs to submit a certificate of appropriateness application for whichever signs he's going to be having permanently in place. So I'll be following up with him as well as Jonah Weisskopf for his properties. And
I was going to mention something about Jonah. I guess the house on the corner, I think it's 502 West Elm. He had contacted me, and I need to get back to him, but contacted me about maybe railings on the porch. But I've looked at it, and I don't think there ever were railings on the porch.
I think you mentioned that either to me personally or at the last meeting, so it would not be
Okay.
A replacement of an original item, but it should be something that's done in character.
And this is a code thing for the railing?
Insurance was, his insurance company was requiring railings for the stairs, and he personally, as a landlord, was concerned about adding railings for safety for tenants.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other monitoring of properties from anyone?
I just wanted to say briefly that in preparation for the certificate of economic hardship, I walked around Buena Vista Court, and there are 4 bungalows that still have their original windows.
Yay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Thank you for scouting that out.
I actually was out there today for a incoming or a pending certificate of appropriateness for Janet Moore's number 4, and had counted and gotten the same number, and like 4 had original, 4 had replacement. 2 of the 4 bungalows with originals also still had the original storms, and 2 of them had, you know, aftermarket storms as well. So it is a mixture there.
Let's see. Staff report. Is there anything else, Marcus?
No.
Okay. Study session. Update of activities for Historic Preservation Month. Take it away, Marcus.
So in light of our current pandemic situation, most of the activities planned for May have been canceled. The events scheduled at the Urbana Free Library have been canceled. I have forwarded a copy of a proclamation to the mayor's office, and Mayor Marlin is going to proclaim May as National Historic Preservation Month in Urbana next Monday. So that will be added to the city's website. As opposed to talking about events we're holding, it's going to mention us promoting existing resources that people can take advantage of to celebrate Historic Preservation Month. The press release that we're going to put out is going to include that list of links of walking tours and podcasts and the Lincoln Wayfinding site. And we're going to try and focus on those on the website as well, so that people can go out and take a tour of downtown or the Joseph Royer District, or Buena Vista Court, and use those podcasts that city staff have already put together. And then hopefully later on in the summer, when things open up a bit more, we can work on updating the downtown walking tour to better reflect, or more closely reflect, the new National Historic District area. And as the Urbana Landmark Hotel continues restoration, we might be able to still have a tour there, or have a presentation by somebody about that. And Alice had mentioned that if they hold their events later on in the summer, that we can also publicize those as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I've got a question for Marcus. When you mentioned the Urbana Lincoln, or whatever it's called, what's going on there now? I mean, is anything physically happening?
I think it's all still in the planning stages primarily. The developers are going to be following the National Park Service's requirements if they plan on utilizing any federal tax credits. And those would, still be, I think, coming to us for review as well.
Okay.
Marcus, I have a question too. I drive down Main Street quite often and then take a right onto Lincoln and a left onto University. And I noticed that the new Gather development that's going in at the corner of University and Lincoln, that some of the pavers have been taken up from Clark Street and are in two big piles. I thought that one of the reasons they really enjoyed that area was because of that brick street. So I just got a little concerned when I noticed that they have taken up two chunks of it and have placed those pavers in big piles. So if staff could maybe follow up with that, I'd appreciate it.
I would not be surprised if some amount of work had to be done for utilities or for, because there is going to be development on both the north and south side of Clark Street, whether there's going to be some sort of connection of wiring or cabling or something between the two developments. Kevin might have some information about that. Otherwise, I can check with Public Works and check with Nick Hansen, our building inspector, and see if they know why those pavers have been pulled out. And we are assuming that that's going to be a temporary situation.
Thanks, Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus, since you put me on the spot, I don't have any additional information on that. I do know Clark Street is in just terrible condition there.
Yes.
So I mean, I would love it if they were going to be putting them back in better shape than what's there now, because it's pretty terrible. But no, we can follow up and find out what's going on with that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Was the original question that Gina asked about sidewalk bricks or street bricks?
It's the street.
Street, okay.
Any other questions? All right, the next thing is announcements. Anybody have any announcements? Other than celebrating Preservation Month, yay.
Alice, I did speak with my friend who owns one of the businesses on Main Street. That we had maybe talked about having a walking tour prior to the COVID-19 shutdown of everything. She was very enthusiastic about having a crew in, and hopefully when things open up, if we do something, there'll be some progress made on renovation of that retail space, and that we would be welcome to go and take a look.
Great, good to hear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if there are no more announcements, can we have a motion to adjourn, please?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, David. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Trent. All those in favor?
No, that was Dave.
Aye.
What was?
Dave Seiler seconded it.
All right, my bad. All right, I think we're adjourned. Bye. This was our first ever virtual Historic Preservation Commission meeting.
And I think it went rather well.
Yay!